Have you ever had the experience where you were thinking about someone right before they called or texted you, and then you were wondering how that's even possible? In this video, we're going to answer that question, and we're going to understand that it comes from the fact that the mind is actually not locally tied into the brain, but actually a field that exists around the brain that can actually spread out and go vast distances as we perceive them. There's been a lot of evidence to suggest that the human brain actually reacts to incoming stimuli before that different stimuli or event even happens. When you look at different studies like Dean Radin's skin conductance studies that show that there's a measurable part of the brain that reacts before the conscious mind even realizes anything happened, such as being shocked, or Daryl Bem's feeling of the future, which is a similar study in which participants seem to have made a decision before they're consciously aware of that decision. This suggests that our brains actually exist in a state somewhere in the future, but also in the past, while also reconciling it all in what we consider to be the present moment. So why then is it possible for us to think about our friend or family member before they call or text us? Well, the answer is because when they are thinking about us or about to make an action that contacts us, our brains or our minds, which operate almost purely in the realm of potential, because the mind is actually a formation of all the potentials that can happen around it based on what it's thinking about or what it's even interacting with. The mind is actually picking up the future possible states that could come into fruition. So when your friend is thinking about calling you and then actually makes that movement to grab the phone, select you on their call list, and make that call, they're collapsing the potential of them calling you into a real form that is now in resonance with you. This has been seen in many studies done in different areas of science, such as the Aronov-Bohm effect, which showed that electrons shift based on potentials of the electromagnetic field alone, that then when the electrons passed over a region of pure electrical potential, the electrons were impacted. There's a more recent study that showed that when you have water waves that intersect perfectly so that they deconstruct, they actually form waves that travel beyond those waves and create what many call scalar waves or longitudinal waves. This is all the same concept, that at the center of whatever we're talking about, there's a point where energy and information can no longer be compressed and pure potential then arises, creating actual movement in real reality. And our unconscious minds have to operate on that potential by virtue of how they've been shown to intercept or predict what's going to happen and respond accordingly. So that's why things like telepathy work at all, because the brain is only holding on to the electrical potentials as all of these neurons fire and these different ideas come in. Our brains, our neurons, are picking up the different potentials and making them real as thoughts that are then being transmitted into the body as maintaining it. And the reason our brains are even able to do this has a lot to do with how the third and fourth ventricles in our brain act as a vortex pump, where spinal fluid actually goes up, cycles around, and is continuously compressing and reverberating constantly. It's shown that when two waves, as in two brain hemispheres, get into sync and constructively interfere so that they don't deconstructively create chaos, but constructively get smaller and smaller as they're compressed, there's a point where there's a reverberation that happens and then spreads out within those waves and into the surrounding environment as potential or scalar waves. And this process is happening organs across our entire body, and is probably happening at the center of every cell inside of our DNA as well. What this suggests is that when we're doing something like telepathy, because the brain is constantly beating and maintaining a vortex of electric charge circling around it. It's said in esoteric lines of thought, like those of Rudolf Steiner, or in different lines of theosophy, that the mind is actually a cloud of electric mind field around the head. This is electromagnetic energy, and it's been organized by the process of our brain continuously squeezing that spinal fluid. And this process of squeezing and creating a vortex wraps all of reality around us, and we sort of start to pull and interact with things that are in resonance with us. So when people talk about having telepathic thoughts or trying to telepathically communicate things, or even do things like remote view or have premonitions of the future, what they're doing is getting their mind entrained, and they're getting into a trance-like state or a state of deep meditation, and they're grabbing potentials that are in resonance with them. This could actually be a good answer for why the children looked at in the telepathy tapes actually were able to communicate and visit a place called the Hill. This could be because they're all in a similar frequency, that they're in resonance with each other or in harmony, that they're able to more actively interact with each other in a non-verbal capacity. Because if the mind is an electromagnetic field that is around the brain, and children with autism have similar changes to the way their brain functions, I don't think it's crazy to think that children with similar differences would be able to communicate at a electromagnetic telepathic level. And further, I think that if you look at something like premonitions in dreams, the reason these even happen is because when we're asleep, our brain isn't really holding on to conscious awareness in the present moment because the body's asleep. So the mind, still being attached to this brain, is able to wander and sort of drift away and grab onto other potentials that aren't directly in resonance with our waking life at that moment. And in moments of like stress or big events coming in the future, or things that could potentially go wrong, I think that we're more inclined to remember these dreams or nightmares because they are in resonance with the physical body and what the brain and physical expression of us is experiencing. So it's more likely for us to remember these dreams because they're similar to what we experience when we're awake and conscious. And one of the features of being a human being appears to be that we can only really vividly remember things that this organism has personally experienced. So even if we have a soul and it had past experiences, those ideas and experiences aren't exactly readily available to us as they would be like my memory of yesterday, but would more be a feeling like deja vu or a predisposition to come to a realization sooner than those who hadn't. This is where the study about the two different water waves intersecting, creating waves that extend far beyond that central implosion point and create new waves that exist within the existing waves, comes back. Because when we understand that we have various vortexes within our body, we begin to understand that we are affecting reality all around us. And I think it actually begins to explain how having a heart that's constantly beating, where it itself has 4 different vortex chambers within it, and a brain that's doing the same thing in the 3rd and 4th ventricles at a different scale, it really begins to explain like all of this stuff. We'll dive more into this in another video and examine why us creating scalar waves constantly literally changes reality around us. I want to mention that I have a newsletter that you should head over to my website and sign up for if you're interested in any of this stuff. I'm going to be covering this as more and more stuff rolls out and we see that this futuristic future starts to come into play with all the good parts and the bad parts. Also, I've got a membership program going on. It really helps support this channel, as right now this is my full-time gig, and I have a workshop coming up. If you're interested in this, please let me know in the comments. I would love to get that support as well, to feel more motivated to complete it. Yeah. Like this video if you like it. Thank you. My name's Adam.